This week on Political Fallout Shelter, Trump goes to visit NATO, immigration hits the DOD again, and Jim Mattis for the Supreme Court? I don't know, we'll see. Welcome to the Political Fallout Shelter, where we come to you each week from deep beneath the Capitol, safe, secure in our little bomb shelter here. I am Leo Shane, Deputy Editor at Military Times. Hey, if you've been listening to us, I appreciate it. I've been hearing from a lot of folks asking how they could help out, and the best thing you can do is just send us money. Cash works, checks work, anything like that. But also subscribe. We're on iTunes. We're on Google Play. And let us know what you think. With me here, as he is every week, is a man who bet a great sum on Croatia versus France in the World Cup. So you've got a ton of money coming to you, I'm sure, with all of your investment in soccer futures here. Joe Gould, congressional editor for Defense News. Welcome, Joe. How you doing this week?
Doing great.
Big story for us coming up this week is going to be the NATO summit. We've been talking about this for quite a while. Donald Trump's going to be heading over to Brussels to discuss with our NATO allies some key issues, some future issues, and as expected, to a certain extent, there's a bunch of controversy before he even gets over there. There's been some talk. There was a Washington Post report that the President Trump is looking at withdrawing troops from Europe, Germany specifically, and that's riled up some European allies. We have heard from the White House in the last few days that they're pushing back and they're saying that's not going to be a topic of conversation. This isn't going to be a main focus, but it goes into this larger question of, what is Trump's view of NATO? Where does he think this alliance is going to go? And just how certain are our traditional allies in U.S. support moving forward?
Yeah, just kind of taking a step back, I mean, this president has swung back and forth on NATO, at one point, reaffirmed the Article 5 clause for mutual self-defense, but seemed to have
like
to be...
Seemed like a gunpoint.
Yeah, it seemed like he had to be pushed to do it. But, I think we kind of get a sense of how he really feels, right? And we got a tweet this morning ahead of the summit.
Let me read that to you here.
Okay.
It's the United States is spending far more on NATO than any other country. It's not fair, nor is it acceptable. While these countries have been increasing their contributions since they took office, they must do more. Goes on and on here. These are things we've heard from the president in the past. A lot of frustration that what is the U.S. doing subsidizing some security for Europe? Yeah,
so the argument is that the NATO allies need to be spending more, and more of them are. But this is the alliance that the security alliance that undergirds the world order largely since World War II, and the president is questioning it. At the same time, he plans to go and meet with Vladimir Putin after this summit.
Right.
And I think that the two things are kind of being looked at together, right? At the same time that he's, pressuring allies, traditional allies, he is going to meet with Vladimir Putin, and said at this campaign-style rally in Montana, he's fine, Putin's fine. So, are we going to see a kind of a warm sort of Kim Jong-un style embrace of Vladimir Putin? What are we going to get here? And I think potentially it undermines the alliance if he's seen to do that. Certainly, we had some lawmakers up here who are jittery about it.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because we got a background briefing from the White House on what to expect from both the NATO summit and this Putin summit, this Russia summit, which will happen next weekend. And one of the things we heard was, exactly what the folks on Capitol Hill wanted to hear, that the president's going to be tough on Russia, that he's going to be talking to NATO about Russia assistance to Syria, Russian, incursions into Ukraine, even the U.S. Russian interference in the U.S. election. And a couple of reporters pressed White House officials and said, look, I understand you're putting all these things on the agenda, but does that mean the president is going to actually engage on them? And we heard from folks saying, look, he knows, he is well read on this, he understands all these, but the president's the president, and he'll decide what he's...
POTUS gonna POTUS.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say what's going to come up? And to your point, could right after Trump meets
Right.
with our NATO allies, could he go sit down with Putin and agree to halt European exercises,
Right.
just as a show of good faith?
That's right. Yeah. What is Putin going to get? So to be clear, right? You're reporting, and Aaron Mehta from Defense News interviewed Kay Bailey Hutchinson, the U.S. representative of NATO, saying that the withdrawal of U.S. forces from Germany is not on the table for the NATO summit.
I mean, they say it's not on the table.
Well,
We'll
I
see
mean,
when Trump gets there if he throws it back on the table.
Well, it's interesting that information leaked, right? Yeah. That's something that the Pentagon was asked to study. I think maybe even if they're not serious about it, there's a little bit of a message there. But I guess all that is to say that there are intermediate steps that might be taken short of withdrawing U.S. troops from Germany. I mean, I think this is a foundational security relationship here. I don't think this is something that's going to be undertaken overnight.
Yeah, no, and you're talking about 35,000 troops in Germany alone. It's not the kind of, to your point, it's not the kind of thing that can happen. But are there steps? Are there threats that come up? And, is that the kind of thing that Trump, again, just days after speaking with, some of our closest allies, does Trump turn around and go to Putin and say, yeah, all that, everything I said there is negotiable?
And it should be said, I don't think that Trump can unilaterally withdraw troops, right? Congress is a co-equal branch of government.
He can panic lawmakers. He's good at doing that.
He can propose in the budget, and I mean, it would be an interesting turn after dedicating an ever-increasing amount of money to the European Defense Initiative. I think this last year it was like, $6 billion plus, and then the turn I think that would cause a little bit of whiplash here, and I think that lawmakers have a long tradition of taking the president's budget and then tailoring it, whether those are kind of a little like a little hem at the a little hem and a little alteration at the cuffs, or like a full scale, remains to be seen, right?
No, and that's one of the interesting points that I wanted to bring up too. I mean, this is happening. This just the talk of withdrawing troops from Europe is happening with the backdrop of, the House pushing for increasing Army end strength, increasing the end strength of all of the services. If we're pulling troops back there, if we're talking about pulling troops out of Korea,
to do what?
Where are these guys going? What are they
what's the end strength increase for?
You have this very clear message coming from the House saying we need to have more. We've cut down too far. You've got folks in the Senate Armed Services Committee saying we're willing to go along with some end strength increases, but we don't know what these troops are for, and we need to clarify that. And then you have the president saying we're going to rebuild the military and bring everybody home.
The Senate Foreign Relations Committee has actually got some like a sense of Congress, some sense of Congress legislation to kind of talk about the Senate's commitment to NATO or support for NATO. It'll be interesting to see the markup for that and what kinds of arguments come out here, and how, what do other Republicans say in contrast with what the president's saying. I think most of them have kind of, carved out some middle ground here and been supportive of the president's position. Bob Corker being one of them, that the NATO allies need to spend more. But I think you would see bipartisan support for the alliance more generally, less questioning than the president's doing.
Right. All right, look, let's shift topics here for a moment and talk about immigration yet again, because it's come into DOD's wheelhouse unexpectedly in the last few days. There was an AP report last week where they discussed some of the programs that allow foreign-born folks to enlist in the military and become citizens that way. AP's reporting that about 40 folks were suddenly dumped from the program over in recent months, thought that they had a clear path, and now are in this legal limbo. There's been a lot of conservative pushback on this story, saying, sometimes folks get dropped, they may be exaggerating here, but it fits into a pattern we've seen with Tara Kopp, our Military Times Pentagon reporter. She's been looking at the issue of immigration in the military for the last several months and has seen a decided crackdown on folks who once thought they were in safe programs, in some sort of path, suddenly have that yanked away. Washington Post, Alex Horton has done quite a bit of reporting on this too, just seeing, new rules, new restrictions, things being poorly communicated to immigrants or flat out, being pulled back from there. It's yet another hot button topic for the military that they probably didn't want to be part of. They probably wanted to
Right.
stick away from here, but they're in the middle of this immigration debate yet again.
Yeah. If you know, can I if I can provide a little bit of the a flavor for the counter argument, it's been that the Obama administration was the one that that expanded the program to include DACA recipients. It's a tricky that some of these immigrants are have kind of complicated backstories, and they can be it can be difficult to investigate and do background checks on them, and so there is the counter argument is that there is some sort of washout rate,
Right.
and by expanding the program, you can potentially increase the washout rate. You might expect this administration to shrink programs that the Obama administration expanded, especially when it comes to immigrants. But I would agree with you there that you've got to be upfront with people, particularly people who are really like banking their futures, right? These are folks who have to apply for citizenship through to get in through the military, and if that avenue is closed to them, now what?
And that seems to be the big issue here. Yeah, there's always been folks who maybe jumped the gun and thought that, oh, I can do this, but then, cursory investigation into their past shows actual affiliation with gang members or some questionable, foreign entity that could be a security risk. But, when we've seen these things in the past, it hasn't had the same, animosity. It hasn't had the same backdrop of just anger and anti-immigrant sentiment that seems to be rolling through a lot of these other policies. So look, the question becomes, what's the level of faith and assurance here? And with a program like this is not one, while there's changes under the Obama administration, this idea of getting your citizenship, being an immigrant and coming to the country and getting your citizenship through the military is one that has been welcomed by both Republicans and Democrats.
That's worth saying. I mean, I think that if the administration here is operating, quietly, you could see why that tactic, why they might be going that path, because Congress, I think, has largely been supportive of this program that they might be rolling back.
At the height of the Iraq War and Afghanistan War, George Bush was touting this program as, look, we bring in folks from other cities. They love us so much, they're willing to go fight in these wars because they know how important this is. And we've gone, one Democratic administration later, we skip over, the next Republican says, yeah, this is a place we need to crack down because there's too many immigrants
to bring it full circle to the end strength increase that you referenced earlier. Right, the services can have problems meeting their recruiting and retention goals, and this is an avenue to bring more people in. Why they're sealing it off is a good question.
No, it's another difficult one, and one that I know the DoD maybe didn't expect, but also won't really talk about. When they're confronted with questions, they keep saying, "Look, it's a legal issue. We can't talk about it," which is also a change. This is also if there are changing rules, if there are changing parameters, why isn't the DoD being upfront about it and saying, "Look, we are allowing fewer immigrants in."
Yeah, the ongoing litigation is sort of it's like a tool in the tool book for public affairs folks that would rather not talk about something. I mean, we see it all the time, and why not be upfront about a policy that's affecting the lives of of potential recruits.
All right, one more for you before we go here, Joe, and that is the possibly biggest news of the week that's not connected to the military, the announcement of a new Supreme Court justice by President Trump on Monday night. In a reality show kind of setup here. Look, the Supreme Court has been a entity that has not had a lot of military or VA representation. They seem to favor legal expertise for some reason. I don't know why that's the thing, but it got me thinking. We don't know who the pick is yet, but let's fix that. Let's bring some military folks in. Let's bring some veterans in. Who is your pick to get in here? And before you answer, I've got several.
Okay, tell me yours first.
Okay, so I mean the obvious one, while he's popular, while he's doing well in his job, at least in the eyes of the president, if Trump decides he wants to put Mattis on the Supreme Court, that's a win not just for now, that's a win to go on and on and on. Look, he's reliable vote for him, somebody who's been close, and as we know from all the Marines we talked to, Mattis is probably going to live for 300 to 400 years. So, like, when that lifetime appointment there, that outlives all of us.
I feel like if you can't, we lost F. Lee Ermey. I guess if you can't get F. Lee Ermey, right, Mattis would be your next go-to.
The next one. So.
Not a veteran per se, but Senate Armed Services Committee member Ted Cruz. There's a joke up here that that Ted Cruz's colleagues in the Senate would unanimously vote him to the Supreme Court.
So it'd be a nice and easy confirmation process
to
get him out of here. So let me give you one that's same committee, but veteran, legal backing, Senator Lindsey Graham.
Yes.
So he served over in Iraq and Afghanistan as just in Iraq as a military lawyer. He's got the background there, and reliable conservative vote. And as we know, Supreme Court justices generally don't talk to the media as much. So Trump could finally get him off of his out of the picture in terms of all the criticism that he's given him in recent years here. So.
I love it.
Yeah, no, it seems like an easy pick.
I don't know about reliable conservative. I mean, I don't know about Lindsey Graham voting with Trump reliably every time.
His votes in the Senate have at least lined up. There's been a lot of chatter around it, so maybe you eliminate the chatter, but still get the results you want. So, all right, look, we'll be watching that on Monday night to see who it is. You can follow our work all week long at militarytimes.com and at defensenews.com. I'm on Twitter at Leo Shane.
I'm at Reporter Joe.
Thanks for tuning in.